The League of the Genuine is back. As always, we have an important but often ignored discussion about the subject of counterfeits. Last week, we were discussing DNA testing. This week, we are still discussing DNA testing because it is something that won't go away. We are here at the premises of one of the certified labs by the government of Uganda, where you can come and do your paternity tests. And we are here with none other than the proprietor, Dr. Bwanga. Dr. Bwanga Freddy. I don't know that you're trying to copy Fred and you ended up getting lost with Freddy. You are welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I am happy to see you here. I've seen you have quite an impressive outfit here. That this is done by indigenous Ugandan is something that we must applaud you for. So tell us, Mbn Laboratories, what about it?
Okay, thank you, Freddy. Mbn is a medical laboratory facility. It's a complex of many laboratories, medical laboratories, which do various tests for patient care, for research, and for assisting communities and families solve issues. It does from the smallest test like a malaria test to the most complex one like a DNA test. It has been around for 14 years, since 2010, and it has served the nation well. I think many people use the services here for different purposes, but I know right now what is on everyone's mind is that it's only DNA lab, but it's not only DNA lab. It does a wide range of medical tests for patient care and research.
I can see a lot of services that you offer behind. One of the things I noted, you say your vision is to be a center of excellence.
Yes.
For us who have taken the stick and are trying to fight counterfeits in the community, we find that excellence has been thrown out of the window. And we also see that there are counterfeits in the medical world. Can you just give an overview before we go into the DNA testing? What is the situation of counterfeits in the lab industry?
Very big question, very wide question requiring many answers. But briefly, if there is no proper legislation, counterfeit is likely to happen. So in any sector of what we do in day-to-day life, if the legislation is weak, counterfeiting is likely to wake up. It is potentially there, but it is silenced by the legislation. So in the laboratory sector or the medical laboratory sector, it can come in at any stage, from having unqualified people doing tests, unlicensed facilities, mismanaging samples, and so on and so forth. Mislabeling, and intentional or unintentionally, and so on and so forth. For some reason, counterfeiting might awaken itself if the legislation is weak.
So I imagine that the government chose your lab, government analytical lab and your lab, as the only places where we can do paternity tests. Why were you chosen?
The answer is that the laboratory we call Mbn Clinical Laboratories is known to offer quality. Historically, it has been working for 14 years, as I mentioned, and it has consistently produced quality. And even our motto is here for what? For quality, not for money, but for quality. The laboratory is internationally accredited by AABB. AABB it stands for Association for the Advancement of Blood and Biotherapies, formerly known as American Association for Blood Banks. It is based in the United States of America, and it accredits laboratories which do things like DNA testing, like blood transfusion testing services, HLA typing, that is a DNA test for relating an organ recipient and potential donors. We call it HLA genetic typing. So laboratories which are in that category, all those categories, are accredited by that kind of organization. And before a laboratory becomes accredited, it undergoes a lot of processes and procedures to ensure that the results it produces are actually
authentic,
consistently quality results.
Your profile shows that you are a DNA expert.
Yes.
So I'll now go to your expertise. The Ministry of Health statement says that we've been having DNA testing for about 20 years or so.
Yes.
But the last I checked, this DNA testing phenomena has been around for the last 50 years.
Yes.
Why is it, having been discovered or invented in 1969, why are we having this hula balloon now? What do you think has informed it?
I am not very sure of what actually incited the current wave of social media discussions. However, on a speculative ground, I think some few weeks back, I saw in social media that 80% of tested children are not for the father, direct father. Then either before or after that, then I think I saw also some popular name in Kampala town, in Kampala city. Also, I think information came out in social media that some of the children he was raising at home were not his. I don't know whether that's what ignited, because the testing has been going on for years, as you rightly said.
It seems we are back to another pandemic. We've just come from a COVID pandemic. Now we are having a DNA pandemic. Both pandemics cause panic. They cause unease. How can you paint a picture? How rampant, or has the DNA testing increased now because of more people coming? Are you getting more clients coming now than before?
Truth be said, there has not been any surge in people coming for DNA testing. This so-called surge people are talking about and believing in is a myth.
Is it fake news?
It is an extrapolation of people's thinking beyond the truth. Because like you came, you waited there for like 30 minutes as I was finishing the other meeting. But did you see a crowd?
I was hoping to see some couples fighting
Did you see
over some wrong results?
Any crowd of people coming for testing? No.
No, I didn't.
So
see,
it's a myth, and social media is very strong. And social media has actually hyped this to make people believe that it is correct, but it's not. The people who come for testing, the numbers are almost the same. We have not noticed any surge, not like during COVID when many people were actually testing. It's not like that.
So it's an artificial...
It's an artificial
creation.
Thank you very much.
So you are saying authoritatively that this is actually fake.
It's fake
news. Information and misinformation.
Fake information, misinformation. Probably what I have observed is that the awareness about DNA testing has exponentially increased awareness. Secondly, now people know that the services are available in their country, Uganda, and also they know that the cost is probably not so high.
What is the cost?
DNA is always exciting people. Whenever we talk about DNA, there is a lot of excitement. Even when we speak to colleagues, doctors and other health workers, it's always exciting, all communities. People are always inquisitive to know. I think because each of us has DNA.
Yes.
So everyone feels it concerns him or her.
Yes.
Yes.
What is the cost of doing
the cost of DNA,
per child?
Like it's charged per sample. Like if it's just the ordinary test to know whether this is my child or not, which we call a peace of mind DNA test, it's only 285,000 Uganda shillings per sample.
That's about $70.
About around there. But if it's this test which is international, which is covered by the international accreditation and therefore which you can present anywhere in the world, it costs 385,000.
That is $100.
Yes. So basically...
And how long does it take? Is it like a malaria test?
No.
After 10
it's
minutes?
Not a malaria test. It takes like 3 to 5 working days. But in emergency situation results can be produced within 24 hours in case of need, urgent need. But routinely 3 to 5 roughly 1 week.
1 week?
Yes.
The Ministry of Health statement said that 3 out of 10
yes.
DNA test results negated the biological relationship.
Yes.
Okay, they were fake, if you like.
They were negative.
They were negative.
Not fake, but maybe negative, as people say.
Fake in the sense that the birth certificate would have showed Mr. A to be the father. The results negate it. Is this a high percentage, 30%? Should we be alarmed by this, or this is, what's the world average even? Actually,
we can never conclude on whether it is high or low until we have understood the denominator.
What is the denominator? What are the denominators?
What are the components in the denominator? The denominator, these children who are being tested against their alleged fathers are mainly coming from relationships which are intermediate between girlfriend, boyfriend, and established marriages. So the child is there, maybe living with the mother as a single mother, and then the mother starts to feel the pressure of the child in terms of economic pressure and social pressure and so on. So those children who are tested are, the DNA tests that are done for paternity predominantly come from that group. I'm going to give an example. Right now in the news there is this case of Luwero Bishop who has a family, but then who has been accused by the House of Bishops, if what we read is correct, that he fathered another child outside his family. So now that child is there. The bishop probably is not sure that this is his what? Child. But the leadership in the church are saying, this is your child. So now, in that way, to confirm that relationship between that child and the alleged father, the bishop, a DNA test must be done. Now, that scenario is exactly representing the truth of the bulk of the tested people.
But there are also DNA tests being carried out involving married women.
I will come to that after. So, in that big group there, which we shouldn't bury our heads in the sand and assume that those children are not there. They are there and there are many. Actually, the children who are born under established marriages in the world are the percentage is, I think,
50,
about
70?
40–50%. The statistics,
are born in wedlock.
Yes, the statistics varies by country. I think I saw Chile has the highest children born without a marriage preceding it.
Chile,
yes. So, in Uganda, there are so many single mothers, we all know that. There are so many children who are born and they are there living with maybe the grandmother, with the sister of the mother, with the uncle. There are many. And then for some reason, the man who is said to be the father is not giving any assistance. And so then time comes when everyone wants this child to be supported by the father if he's alive. Now, when the father is told this is your child, then the father says, no, take away your nonsense. I'm not the father of that child. Now in that way, some father will say, okay, if this is my child, let us confirm first. So they come for the test. Others will decline, and if they decline, then they stand a chance to interface with the law. So the child police will go for them, Child and Family Protection Police, yes. And then they also end up in the DNA lab. So the bulk of the tested children and fathers, alleged fathers, are coming from that group. And this is where the myth of breaking families is. So those who come
So
from...
there is a lot of false alarm
There's
from what I am getting.
A lot of false alarm.
I'm told DNA is going to break families, MPs were up in arms.
But I can ask you, have you tested, do you have a family?
Yes.
Have you tested them for DNA?
No.
Neither have I. So that is a myth. And it is the one which is causing a lot of comments from the parliament, from the other time I had the bishop of the SDA church, Archbishop in Luwer, saying that DNA is splitting families. Actually, DNA is not splitting families. Now, let me come to families. Now, families that come for DNA testing, they come to resolve an ongoing conflict, which is in that family. The Bible prescribes the stages for conflict resolution as first, family. Stay within the family and resolve your issues. If you fail there, involve the elders. If you fail there, involve the leaders and other opinion. If you fail, the church. If you fail there, then go to court. Go to Fred Muwema and file a case or go to police. The families, when they have a paternity issue, once in a while, it's not the bulk. Then they agree themselves to come and do the test and confirm whether this child is for the man or not. I have had a case I normally talk about in the news of a 16-year-old boy whose parents, both with the boy, came for a DNA test. And the mother said that this husband of mine has been torturing me for 16 years, that this child is not what? His. Mm-hmm. So today, doctor, we have consented, let us do the DNA test. We did the DNA test. And this child was for this man.
So the compensation for the torture.
And it's that day, the mother burst into tears of joy, I think. But on that day, the conflict stopped. And the father of the child apologized to his wife and to his child.
So I see a lot of DNA actually helping to resolve a lot of the human fake behavior that we might have.
You've nailed it on the head.
We're back with the second episode of the League of the Genuine Conversations. If you're just joining us now, this is a discussion about DNA testing. We are looking for counterfeit angles to this aspect. Already we have been told by our guest here, Dr. Freddy Bwanga, that this hullabaloo and this noise we are making about DNA testing, how it's breaking families and so on, is actually a creation of social media. This is what I'm hearing from you. But my question then to you is, do you see DNA testing as a positive tool in helping to promote genuineness in our families? Do you encourage people to come for DNA testing, or is this something that should not be done?
DNA testing should be done where it is indicated, where there is a reason. I don't know, you the people in law call it a prima
facie.
Yes, there's something that should drive it. I mean, it's not necessary for a parent, a father, to just wake up and say, let's go to Mbn and do DNA testing.
If he's in the mood.
It's of no use, really.
Supposing he's in the mood.
Mood for what? It's like saying that you wake up one morning and you say, let me enter a taxi and rotate around town and, you know.
No, you see, for medical purposes, routinely we do medical checkups.
This is not for, a DNA test is not required for a medical checkup.
It's not a routine
paternity test. It's not critical. It's not important. So there should be a reason why someone should wake up one day and come for a DNA test. And that reason should be usually when the paternity of the child is in doubt.
Is an issue.
Is an issue. A child should be protected. For example, you have a sister who has been impregnated by a certain man, or a daughter, and then that man is declining responsibility. And so this child is threatened with
their survival and welfare
exactly,
is threatened.
fatherlessness or whatever.
Yes.
On the other hand, you could be the father or mother of this boy who is being accused. That is the one who impregnated the other one, but the boy is saying, no, I'm not the one. But probably the law is quickly catching up with your son for defilement or for whatever it is. So there must be a reason. Or if you are really in a family, and perhaps something has come up, and one of the two of you in that family, either the father or the mother, is having a psychological torture in that family. Either the father is thinking this child is not mine, like in the story, the experience I've just given. Or so sometimes the relatives are attacking the mother of the child. That this child, you produced it outside our what, brothers, lineage, family or whatever. You produced it out there, you were Malaya, you were what?
So,
I mean,
Doctor,
this mother here in this home will not have peace until this problem is resolved.
What I'm picking from you is that DNA testing is not for legit people, basically. It is something where if you have issues, otherwise on the normal. On the normal, we should not be doing DNA tests. This is what you're advocating for.
If you look at it from the perspective of a child, every child is a legit child. There is no child whom you are going to say this one is not a legitimate child.
Whether born out of wedlock.
Exactly. Every child has a right to belong to some family or to a parent. So the issue of legit or not legit probably is not a good one. Because the child at the end of the day is the one we are protecting in all of this.
Do you agree that it is harmful and maybe even fake for DNA testing to be done secretively, without the consent of both parents, maybe even without a court order? This practice of just taking a child, do you think it's a fake practice? Okay,
on the issue of consent, let me start with that one. You are the people who know the laws very well. I think any parent can consent, any parent or legal guardian of a child is allowed to consent for the child. If I'm wrong, you can, of course, clear the air. Like you can consent and go with your child for immunization, for what? You, as one parent, as the father, you can, the law allows for that. In other words, the law looks like it allows a father or a mother to bring a child for any test of what they want.
But to do so and infringe on the privacy, because there is a right to privacy, it's a constitutional right. So if somebody does the DNA testing and infringes on the privacy of this child or this adult and also the privacy of the mother, do you think that there's an ethical issue there?
But if a father came with a child, the mother's privacy is probably, because the mother is not known by the testing lab, it's only the father and maybe the child, if they are big children, who know.
No, because the result will show that this is the father, but the mother will be known.
At that time, the mother will be involved in the what? In reading the result. You are right. But I think that's where the laws that are going to come up on testing will maybe clarify on some of those things. Because at the moment, as we said, any parent can consent for a child to undergo a test. It's not against the law, I believe. If the privacy of the other one will be compromised, I think those are the issues to be sorted in the new law that might come up.
First of all, we have a law on registration of birth. I hear a lot of we need government to regulate this and that, but the government regulates the registration of the births, and it issues a birth certificate, which is the presumption is that the parents who are indicated there are the parents.
Are the parents,
But now my other issue is still from the counterfeit angle. I was doing some reading that there are some technologies that can alter people's DNA. To what extent is this a problem to the DNA testing industry?
technologies which can alter someone's DNA.
Yes, they are
or
called
DNA editing,
human
or whatever.
genome editing technologies.
Yes.
The way they manipulate
Yes.
genes, I hear all
Yes.
these issues. Is that a threat?
I can tell you that genome editing, or cutting out pieces of genes and putting new genes, is already an established practice in agriculture, in the agriculture industry. So this, like this chicken we eat, you have heard about the GM foods.
Yes, genetically modified.
And even in Uganda, we have a research institute in Kawanda.
Yes.
Which does this, and I think on the market you've heard about this matoke is from Kawanda. You've heard about that.
Yes, drought resistant,
yeah,
pest
so
resistant.
this rice is from wherever. So maize, what? We're already eating those foods.
Yes.
But that targeted genome editing or gene editing is normally
of the human chromosomes.
No, before we go to human, of those plants and what is done for a purpose to improve either the productivity, the rate of growth,
yes,
and so on and so forth. And it's done in good faith because the population is growing, people need food, need milk, and so on and so forth. But it
can also be manipulated.
Now, in the human, it is also possible, but it is not something which is done because it is targeted. The functional units on a DNA tape are the genes. So just imagine my fingers here. This is maybe the DNA tape, but this is one gene, another one, determining different components of our bodies. So the gene editing is targeted what? Editing.
To like cure you?
Like to cure a particular
disease. Like
a particular gene might have a fault. For example, say the gene for sickle cell. So that gene for the blood component affected in sickle cell will have a mutation which is there. So if someone was to do a targeted gene editing, it is targeting that what?
So the DNA won't be affected?
The entire DNA will not be affected. It's only that particular gene that will be affected. The targeted one, only.
So we shouldn't be worried that anytime soon we are going to have mass editing?
No. Even in the agriculture industry, as I mentioned, it's also targeted what? Editing. For example, the gene for growth of those, are they called broilers?
Yes.
That gene there's what we call a growth hormone gene, could be targeted to enable them to grow very fast. In 1 month, they are almost ready to eat.
Actually, we have about 23 billion broilers in the world.
Yes.
And that was a big improvement from about 0.8, almost a kilo.
Yeah.
Now we have broilers which are 4 kilos. So you're saying it's for a good cause? It's
for a good cause. Even now, when you want to have a farm with cows producing a lot of milk, you need that genetically modified one, which can give 10 liters. You know, in our villages, the cows we have at home traditionally, how much milk can they give in a day? Maybe 3 liters or 5. But this modified one will be, the gene for milk production will be targeted to give 10 or 20 per day.
So it is basically safe.
It's targeted and it is safe. It's not done for any bad intentions.
We're back with the third and last segment. We are talking matters DNA testing. We are here with Dr. Freddy Bwanga of Mbn. Excellent services that you're offering here at the lab. We are on plot 28, Nakasero Road.
Correct.
In the city of Kampala. So for those who are joining us, this is the only show on the planet where we talk matters, counterfeit, illicit goods, and it also goes into the medical. Doctor,
yes,
because this is an educational show, somebody asked me to ask you,
yes,
that for fraternal twins,
yes,
meaning where the lady releases 2 eggs and they get fertilized. If this lady had a sexual encounter with 2 men, isn't it possible that the fraternal twins can have 2 separate fathers, and that therefore if you did a DNA test, you're likely to have a mother of all wars when these kids were being looked after by one parent and fraternal twins and DNA testing?
Very good question. The answer is yes, it is possible. The truth is, the probability of that happening is extremely low.
1 in a billion.
One in, I don't know the statistics exactly, but one in many pregnancies. Why? Because one, any lady releases one egg only from one ovary every month. So they do it in turns. This month, this ovary releases. The other month, this one rests. This other one releases. That is one. Number two, the probability that 2 eggs will be released, therefore, is very low. Number three, the probability that this lady is going to sleep with one man now, and in the next hour, another man.
Some people do group sex.
How many are they?
The world has become
how
crazy.
many are they in the world?
We never know what happens behind the closed doors.
Okay.
These whatever, being parties and so on.
But you see, as I said, the probability is low because already when one egg is fertilized, it closes the chapter. So even if another man came there and then, probably the egg is already what? Fertilized, and there is no other for that fertilization phase. So the probability that it will happen is extremely low. And therefore it is not something really to...
But in your lifetime as a doctor, have you witnessed something like that?
No, I have not.
There is also an issue that somebody raised with me.
Yes.
And said that they had seen somewhere, you know, these days Google, you can ask Google anything.
Yes.
And they had seen that there is a possibility that your DNA changes as you age. So if you do a DNA test at 25, at 30, by 70, the results might be different. How true is this?
That is not really so true, because a person's DNA is formed at the time of fertilization, and the person lives through the entire lifetime with that DNA. Even when that person dies, they keep the same DNA in the grave. And that's why you hear sometimes they are going to exhume the body of the late so-and-so to test for the paternity or whatever they want to use the DNA for. What they probably meant was that as we stone earth, there could be some genes which undergo some slight mutations. A mutation is like, you know, the DNA alphabet is ACTG. The DNA has only those 4 letters which form the entire information database of DNA, ACTG. So the information actually is found in the sequence of those letters. They are only what? 4. But the way they are arranged on the tape of the DNA in that particular gene is where the information is. So sometimes you may find that even here we see those, when we test we see those mutations here and there. We may find like instead of letter C, that place has been replaced with another what? Letter maybe, no, one of the other 4, there is no Z. It is ACTG only. They must be only those 4. So you may find that where there was a C, probably T has come to sit there. Like for example in sickle cell. Sickle cell disease is caused by a change in one letter out of those 4 in the hemoglobin beta chain. Hemoglobin is the red pigment that makes blood red. And it's that the purpose of that pigment is to transport oxygen from the lungs to the rest of the body parts, and to come back with carbon dioxide, CO2, from those body parts back to the lungs so that we can breathe it out. Now, sickle cell comes about when one letter in one of the is altered just in the hemoglobin chain. One like this. So that is the change that probably can happen. Sometimes it is, for sickle cell, it's usually inherited from the mother and father. But sometimes, because of certain conditions on Earth, when the environment can influence a mutation to happen in someone's gene. The classic example is what we call ionizing radiation. It's like during the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs.
The nuke bombs.
The nuke bombs in Japan in those times. Many people got mutations in certain genes. And they started getting some diseases like leukemias, and so on. So such environmental
can cause that change.
Some chemicals, like you talked about heavy metals before we started the show. Some chemicals can go in the body and influence certain changes to happen, mutations. But in principle, the genetic makeup of a person will remain the same
from 1 year to 100 years.
Thank you very much.
Doctor, from what I know, DNA, yes. The last A is acid. It stands for acid.
Yes.
Now, the dead people don't have acids. So how do you go and test? Which acid are you testing? Don't you think you're giving us wrong results?
No. The DNA molecule will remain there intact.
In form of acid?
Yeah, you know, you are thinking about acid as in like a liquid, probably.
Yes.
But this is a molecule, an invisible molecule, chemical.
So the dead, because there will be bones down there.
Yes.
And you're going to get the molecule, the acid out of that.
Yes. Even the acid, you know, like sulfuric acid is a molecule actually. It has a molecular formula written as H2SO4. It's just a chemical with a molecular structure. But which can now in the case of sulfuric acid, it is always in liquid. But the other acid is a molecule there which can stay there dry, and it is there.
Doctor.
Yes.
Does consuming dangerous products, counterfeit products, alter somebody's DNA? For example, women who use a lot of cosmetics with mercury and so on.
As I mentioned before, chemicals are some of the things that can create some mutations within the DNA molecule or within the genes forming up the DNA strand or DNA tape. Chemicals can change.
So these ladies who bleach, for example, these people who bleach, when they were my color, the DNA was different. When they change, the DNA is different.
No, when they bleach, they don't change the color. They don't change the DNA. They instead remove the product from the DNA, which is the melanin, which makes the skin dark. So that chemical which is used for bleaching will block melanin from forming up. But the real DNA, the tape, which stays intact. And that's why when they produce a child with another man, or usually they are women anyway who bleach. If they become pregnant and produce a child with another darker skinned man, the child will be black.
Because, and the woman is brown.
Yes, because the actual ingredient, the DNA tape which has the information, is still intact. So the chemical, but some chemicals, which we know them in the medicine, we generally call them carcinogens. Or cancer-causing chemicals, or what. They can actually alter. They can cause a mutation in the genes, or in those letters I mentioned, the SCT. They can cause a mutation. And so when that mutation happens, the mutation may result into nothing visible, or it may result into something visible like a cancer developing.
Doctor, in your practice,
yes,
have you experienced fake DNA results, and how do they present?
As we said before, people can forge things. So I think like twice or thrice I've seen someone coming to find out whether this result is genuine or not from us.
From another lab?
No.
Or what? Even
from our lab, and some others from other labs. So when they come, we look at the report, and we will know whether it is fake or not fake.
So how does it become fake?
We as the testing lab, we have no capacity to prevent everyone from forging what they want to forge. So the counterfeiters are always there in society.
So you have some unethical guys in a lab?
Not in the lab, outside. You cannot survive in the lab here when you are unethical. You can't. The systems are designed in such a way that you will just quickly be exposed and you are deleted.
So what you're saying is that the faking, yes, the counterfeit results, yes, are external.
They are external. Someone can sit there and he goes to whatever road the people talk about and manufactures, he puts a logo of some lab and then he claims that this is a genuine report. But that one, what we normally, for the purpose of the public, when you say a DNA report and you have any degree of doubt, simply come with that report to the lab and request for authentication of that report.
Do you have like a portal where somebody can authenticate the results, so they have to come here?
Our website has information on how to complain. Even the reception area, there is a number.
I saw something
there. Yes, some info. At the website, there is a phone, email, and even WhatsApp. You can lodge a complaint. Anyone who has that result and purportedly coming from MBN can lodge a complaint and say, please help me tell whether this is true or counterfeit. And we'll be glad.
Can somebody scan your certificate, patent DNA test, scan on a phone, and like we do for COVID?
No, we are not doing that. You know, this field here is so sensitive. You really want to, as much as possible, prevent
mass saturation of
information. This is, you know,
it's confidential.
At one time you asked me a question whether DNA tests should be ordered or not. DNA testing has become part of the ways of resolving family issues or things related to family. Like we talked about children hanging in space. So if we say every child where there is a dispute of paternity, we go for courts and wait for court orders. You are the lawyers. The situation of those children,
the stigma that
is going to be so terrible. The stigma, courts take forever to resolve issues.
And it's not very friendly.
The child is growing.
The court is not
The
friendly.
child needs school fees and other forms of support. And the court is taking a year to pronounce itself. So in that way, the situation of the children will become worse. Secondly, family issues of that nature or related family issues in our culture in Africa are solved within the what? Within the family.
The family.
That's why if the family or whoever is concerned, mother and father, has agreed that we go for this test and we solve our issue quietly without embarrassing and exposing ourselves to the villagers and neighbors and so on, probably that's a better way to resolve
so
that issue.
So you're saying government should not play a big role in these patent issues?
In terms of tightening and what is unnecessary.
Like MPs are saying, make a law, we should go
It is unnecessary. The law can be there to regulate other things like on accuracy, responsibility for results and so on, maybe cancel people like we did for HIV. HIV came when in the 80s I was in primary, but I was able to understand. When the HIV test came, there was a lot of debate. Hey, why do you test when you can't treat? What's the ethics of this? But now, today, every corner has an HIV what?
It's a normal thing now.
And who is committing suicide because of an HIV test? It has virtually. And right now, when you want to go for an HIV test, do you need a doctor's prescription? No. You simply walk there and have it. So in a similar manner, for me as a professional doctor, my true feeling is when there are those small family issues of paternity, I think we shouldn't really
put it out in
poke our noses so much into that family. That they should go to what and
but
get
what about these fathers who are
what?
announcing, I have 20 kids and only 3 are mine? These things you are seeing on social media.
Those are fake. Most of them are posting fake news. There's even one who said that 8 of his 10 children are not his. Fake news proper. So I think people are just enjoying the
gossip,
and
yes.
Fun of people like gossiping. Even some TV channels now have a gossiping what? Channels. People were just enjoying the gospel. Another one says the other one jumped from a building because of DNA. when you try to look further, you see that actually it is
It's
fake.
not reality.
Someone committed suicide for
Doctor,
another reason.
I wish we had more time.
Thank you.
This show is about counterfeits.
Yes.
I'm sure our viewers would want to know whether DNA testing can be used to check the food we eat, the plant materials, the animal materials. Why? Because we have a lot of counterfeiting in food. Fake eggs, fake broilers, fake vegetables. Why isn't Mbn helping us to check counterfeits in food so that we are safe?
Actually, it's just that Mbn has focused itself on human genetic testing, but the technology is the same. Talk about those counterfeit bulls and so on, and
yes,
those ones. I mean, DNA can still be used to know which bull is counterfeit or not. So the technology is the same, and it's just someone coming up and applying it for that purpose.
So maybe we can do a partnership with you and have a lab where we check fake products as well.
Exactly.
And lastly, DNA, do you agree that DNA should not be used by irresponsible fathers to start claiming paternity? If you have not looked after somebody, should DNA be available to you to start claiming?
You know, these things need to be understood more also in the culture, in our culture. There are people who think that if my child is in the other family and I ignore that child there are some consequences on my child there or on me.
Spiritual issues.
Spiritual, yes, cultural interpretation of situations. If somebody happens to that child or to me, in the culture where we live here in Africa, people might actually believe that because I left my child there,
that's why I'm suffering, that's why I'm not succeeding.
Thank you very much. And also there are some economic opportunities. The child might actually become a big person in the country. And you know, probably inside you believe this is my what? My child.
My lineage.
Yes, my lineage, but because somehow, so there are many issues to think about around there. If the person is already say 20 years or 30 years, is becoming a minister, and then some father wants to come out and say, by the way, you don't belong there, but to my side.
Give me the goodies.
Yes. So
I think it's always an economic consideration.
It's true. So to me there, I think we should allow the child who is mature now
to decide. Your experience with counterfeits and your message to Ugandans, Africans listening to you?
So counterfeits actually in DNA testing, we haven't experienced much. It's not a big problem as we speak now. However, in some few cases, what I want to tell people is that when you have a DNA report from any lab, e.g. Mbn lab, and for some reason you have a reason to doubt whether it is an authentic report, contact us and we hope you to. We can just say it is correct, it's a correct report from us. We may not even comment on who. We can just say it is correct or it is not correct, and then that is okay.
At a personal level, have you had an experience with counterfeits of any product?
Well, sometimes we know, sometimes we don't know that they are counterfeit. It is sometimes hard to know. To differentiate between the counterfeit and the genuine one. But of course, I cannot remember the situation is, but I'm sure I have bought some counterfeit products, which are not DNA, but some other products.
Dr. Freddy Bwanga, we are pleased that you took off time. He's a very, very busy person, but you took off time to be with us. This has been the League of the Genuine Conversation. We have been with Dr. Bwanga here at Mbn Clinical Laboratories, and he has helped to demystify the issue of an alarm around DNA testing. His key message is that it's a false alarm, that DNA testing, which has been around for a long time, is dividing families, is causing social upheaval. We appreciate you making a date with us every weekend, every Friday. This show is dedicated to empowering you, the consumer, with information, because we believe that an informed consumer is an empowered consumer. We would like to thank you for subscribing. If you've already subscribed, if you have not, we request you to click that button We appreciate your support. If you like what we are doing, you can share and put that reminder to always be informed of the next program. We would like to sign off by asking you, don't be fake, buy and sell genuine.